forward to this. The winners will be announced by the end of lunch with a posting on the door. When you see your classmates and your peers, congratulate them on the work. Good luck, everybody. Testing.
After the Winter by Claude McKay. Some day when trees have shed their leaves, and against the morning's white, the shivering birds beneath the eaves have sheltered for the night. We'll turn our faces southward, love, toward the summer isle, where bamboos spire the shafted grove, and wide-mouthed orchids smile. And we will seek the quiet hill where towers the cotton tree, and leaps the laughing crystal rill, and works the droning bee. And we will build a cottage there beside an open glade, with black-ribbed bluebells blowing near and ferns that never fade.
Where the Wild Things Go by D. Gilson. The nights Max wore his wolf suit made him infamous. Bred the child star, never sent to bed. Middle school, Max started drinking. Not in my house, his mother begged. No, 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 wild thing. Max reminded her, who bought this condo, who paid for our meds. Freshman year, Max raved, roared his terrible roar, rolled and almost wound up in a warehouse dead. Where, oh where do the wild things go? To rehab, in high school. To college on residual book sales, Max kept his head down. Laughed at drunken frat boys, bro, let the wild rumpus start, Max said. No thanks. And volunteered for the Peace Corps instead. 2 years in Kenya, 1 in Belarus. The president thought Max might be of some use. Max moved to Washington, appointed at the State Department of Cultural attaché. One important day, Max wore his wolf gray suit, then drove home well past rush hour in a freak snowstorm. Max drove on a deserted beltway, thought it his throne. Yes, Max belted. This is where the wild things roam.
God's Secretary by R.S. Gwynn. Her email inbox always overflows. Her outbox doesn't get much use at all. She puts on hold the umpteenth billionth call as music oozes forward to placate those who wait. Then disappear. Outside, wind blows silent pale leaves. She sees a sparrow fall, fluttering to a claw catch on a wall. Will he be in today? God only knows. She hasn't seen his face. He's so aloof. She's long resigned. He'll never know or love her, but still can wish there were some call, some proof that he requires a greater service of her. Fingers of rain now drum upon the roof, coming from somewhere far above her. Thank you.
The Hospital Window by James L. Dickey. I have just come down from my father. Higher and higher he lies above me in a blue light shed by a tinted window. I drop through 6 white floors and then step out onto pavement. Still feeling my father ascend, I start to cross the firm street, my shoulder blades shining with all the glass the huge building can raise. Now, I must turn round and face it, and know his one pain from the others. Each window possesses the sun as though it burned there on a wick. I wave, like a man catching fire, all the deep-dyed window panes flash, and behind them, all the white rooms, they turn to the color of heaven. Ceremoniously, gravely, and weakly, dozens of pale hands are waving back from inside their flame. Yet one pure pain among these is the bright, erased blankness of nothing. I know that my father is there in the shape of his death still living. The traffic increases around me like a madness called down on my head. The horns blast at me like shotguns, and drivers lean out, driven crazy. But now, my propped up father lifts his arm out of stillness at last. The light from the window strikes me, and I turn as blue as a soul as the moment when I was born. I am not afraid for my father. Look. He is grinning. He is not afraid for my life either, as the wild engines stand at my knees, shredding their gears and roaring. And I hold each car in its place for miles, inciting its horn to blow down the walls of the world, that the dying may float without fear in the bold, blue gaze of my father. Slowly, I move to the sidewalk, with my pin-tingling hand half dead at the end of my bloodless arm. I carry it off in amazement. High, still higher, still waving. My recognized face fully mortal, yet not at all, in the pale, drained, otherworldly, stricken, created hue of stained glass. I have just come down from my father.
The Evening of the Mind by Donald Justice. Now comes the evening of the mind. Here are the fireflies twitching in the blood. Here is the shadow moving down the page where you sit reading by the garden wall. Now the dwarf peach trees, nailed to their trellises, shudder and droop. You know their voices now, faintly the martyred peaches crying out your name, the name nobody knows but you. It is the aura and the coming on. It is the thing, descending, circling here, and now it puts a claw out and you take it. Thankfully in your lap you take it, so you said you would not go away again. You did not want to go away, and yet it is as if you stood out on the dock, watching a little boat drift out beyond the sawgrass shallows, the dead fish, and you were in it, skimming past old snags, beyond, under a brazen sky as soundless as a gong before it struck. Suspended how? And now they strike it. Now the ether dream of 5 years old repeats, and you must wake again to your own blood in empty spaces in the throat.
Candles by Carl Dennis. If on your grandmother's birthday you burn a candle to honor her memory, you might think of burning an extra to honor the memory of someone who never met her. A man who may have come to the town she lived in, looking for work, and never found it. Picture him taking a stroll one morning, after a month of grief with the want ads, to refresh himself in the park before moving on. Suppose he notices, on the gravel path, the shards of a green glass bottle that your grandmother, then still a girl, will be destined to step on when she wanders barefoot away from her school picnic. If he doesn't stoop down and scoop the mess up with the want ad section and carry it to a trash can. For you to burn a candle for him, you needn't suppose the cup would be a deep one. Just deep enough to keep her at home the night of the hayride. When she meets Helen, who is soon to become her dearest friend, whose brother, George, 30 years later helps your grandfather with a loan so his shoe store doesn't go under in the Great Depression. And his son, your father, is able to stay in school where his love of learning is fanned into flames, a love he labors later to kindle in you. how grateful you are for your father's efforts is shown by the candles you've burned for him. But today, for a change, why not a candle for the man whose name is unknown to you? Take a moment to wonder whether he died at home with friends and family, or alone on the road, on the lookout for no one to sit at his bedside and hold his hand, the very hand it's time for you to imagine holding.
Let Evening Come by Jane Kenyon. Let the light of the late afternoon shine through the chinks in the barn, moving up the bales as the sun moves down. Let the cricket take up chaffing as a woman takes up her needles and her yarn. Let evening come. Let dew collect on the hoe, abandoned in long grass. Let the stars appear and the moon disclose her silver horn. Let the fox go back to its sandy den. Let the wind die down. Let the shed go black inside. To the bottle in the ditch, to the scoop in the oats, to the air in the lungs, let evening come. Let it come, as it will, and don't be afraid. God does not leave us comfortless, so let the evening come.
Burning in the Rain by Richard Blanco. Someday, compassion would demand I set myself free of my desire to recreate my father. Indulge in my mother's losses, strangle lovers with words forcing them to confess for me, and take the blame. Today was that day. I tossed them, sheet by sheet, on the patio and gathered them into a pyre. I wanted to let them go in a blaze, tiny white dwarfs imploding beside the azaleas and ficus bushes. Let them crackle, burst like winged seeds. Let them smolder into gossamer embers, 1,000 gray butterflies in the wind. Today was that day. But it rained. Kept raining. Instead of fire, water, drops knocking on doors, wetting windows into mirrors, reflecting me in the oaks. The garden walls and stones swelling into ghostlier shades of themselves, the wind chimes giggling in the storm, a coffee cup overflowing with rain. Instead of burning, my pages turned into water lilies, floating over puddles, and tiny white cliffs as the sun set, finally drying all night under the moon into papier-mâché souvenirs. Today, the rain would not let their lives burn.
Israfel by Edgar Allan Poe. In heaven a spirit doth dwell, whose heartstrings are a lute. None sing so wildly well as the angel Israfel. And the giddy stars, so legends tell, ceasing their hymns, attend the spell of his voice, all mute. Tottering above in her highest noon, the enamored moon blushes with love, while to listen, the red levin with the rapid Pleiades, even which were 7, pauses in heaven. And they say, the starry choir and all the other listening things, that Israfeli's fire is owing to that lyre by which he sits and sings the trembling live wire of those unusual strings. But the skies that angel trod, where deep thoughts are a duty, where love's a grown-up God, where the houri glances are imbued with all the beauty that we worship in the star. Therefore thou art not wrong, Israfeli, who despisest an unimpassioned song. To thee the laurels belong, best bard because the wisest, merrily living long. The ecstasies above with thy burning measure suit, thy grief, thy joy, thy hate, thy love with the fervor of thy lute. Well, may the stars be mute. Yes, heaven is thine, but this is a world of sweets and sours. Our flowers are merely flowers, and the shadow of thy perfect bliss the sunshine of ours. If I could dwell where Israfel hath dwelt, and he were I, he might not sing so wildly well a mortal melody, while a bolder note than his might swell. From my lyre within the sky. Thank you.
Beautiful Wreckage by W.D. Earhart. What if I didn't shoot the old lady running away from our patrol? Or the old man in the back of the head? Or the boy in the marketplace? Or what if the boy, but he didn't have a grenade? And the woman in hue didn't lie in the rain in a mortar pit with 7 Marines just for food. Gaffney didn't get hit in the knee. Ames didn't die in the river. Ski didn't die in a medevac chopper between Con Tien and Da Nang. In Vietnamese, Con Tien means place of angels. What if it really was, instead of the place of rotting sandbags, incoming heavy artillery, rats, and mud? What if the angels were Ames and Ski, or the lady, the man, and the boy, and they lifted Gaffney out of the mud and healed his shattered knee? What if none of it happened the way I said? Would it all be a lie? Would the wreckage be suddenly beautiful? Would the dead rise up and walk?
The Oldest Living Thing in L.A. by Larry Levis. At Wilshire in Santa Monica, I saw an opossum trying to cross the street. It was late, the street was brightly lit. The opossum would take a few steps forward, then back away from the breath of moving traffic. People coming out of the bars would approach as if to help it somehow. It would lift its black lips and show them the reddened gums, the long rows of incisors, teeth that went all the way back beyond the flames of Troy and Carthage, beyond sheep, grazing rock-strewn hills, fragments of ruins in the grass at San Vitale. It would back away delicately and smoothly, stepping carefully as it always had. It could mangle someone's hand in 20 seconds, mangle it for good. It could sever it completely from the wrist in 40. There was nothing to be done for it. Someone or other probably called the LAPD, who then called animal control, who woke a driver, who then dressed in mailed gloves, the kind of thing small knights once wore into battle, who gathered together his pole with a noose on the end, a light steel net to snare it with, someone who hoped the thing would have vanished by the time he got there.
The End of Science Fiction by Lisa Mueller. This is not fantasy. This is our life. We are the characters who have invaded the moon, who cannot stop their computers. We are the gods who can unmake the world in 7 days. Both hands are stopped at noon. We are beginning to live forever in lightweight aluminum bodies with numbers stamped on our backs. We dial our words like Muzak. We hear each other through water. The genre is dead. Invent something new. Invent a man and a woman, naked in a garden. Invent a child that will save the world. A man who carries his father out of a burning city. Invent a spool of thread that leads a hero to safety. Invent an island on which he abandons the woman who saved his life with no loss of sleep over his betrayal. Invent us as we were before our bodies glittered and we stopped bleeding. Invent a shepherd who kills a giant, a girl who grows into a tree, a woman who refuses to turn her back on the past is changed to salt. A boy who steals his brother's birthright and becomes the head of a nation. Invent real tears, hard love, slow-spoken, ancient words, difficult as a child's first steps across a room.
Thank you all. You were a perfect audience. We'll have the winners on the doors before you go home today.